I am going to go ahead and start. I'm not sure what time it is for you right now. All right. So I am Samantha Kindheart with the Language of Orgasm. And I want to make sure that I tell you to check out my website because I created 69 dirty talk phrases that you can use in your bedroom with your lover. You can use it out of the bedroom too. So if you go to my website, thelanguageoforgasm.com, you can subscribe and receive those phrases for free and let me know how you like them. All right. So today we are talking, or I am talking about what is the number one thing missing in the bedroom for your orgasm. And that is something that many people will say is different, right? Like there are a lot of answers that will come up. And I think knowing that your truth is just as important as what I'm going to share with you as well. And staying true to that is what I recommend. So for me, what I've noticed. So initially, I was going to say the number one thing is language. I want to be fully transparent here. Then it actually deepened a lot more, and that is the safety. The safety in the relationships is actually the number one thing that's missing in the orgasms. The safety of being able to express yourself and say that you don't know, or that you're struggling, or that you need help, or that you want something different. So it's really the safety of being able to say your mind in an authentic way and have the other person hear you and listen and receive it without punishment or guilting you. So if you want to think of, and I got this from another hypnotist, so I am also a hypnotist. And to me, hypnosis, it helps strengthen your mind-body connection to have more awareness in your life. And it gives you back control in your life. So I got this from another hypnotist. The metaphor of what happens when I connect with people to help them have a much better sex life is, if you want to think of it, there's two islands. There's hell, which, by the way, I have no qualms with hell. I think, you know, the devil is, there's a lot of mischief and, there's a lot of, taboo with that. And anyways, okay, so getting back to the metaphor. So there's the island of hell and then the island of pleasure. And your pleasure island may be a lot of what some people will consider the hell island. We all have our own unique map of our pleasure island. So what gets in the way of getting over to the pleasure island? It's the sex shame of gender, culture, where you're not maybe fitting into a perceived belief that you maybe have made an assumption around, or there's a performance pressure that your partner is placing on you, either unconsciously or consciously, like they are speaking it into existence, or they aren't speaking it into existence. But like, and they're communicating with body language, or they're giving you silent treatment uh, based off of your reactions to them. Then there is a lot of porn comparison. I mean, it is high. Like, and not only that, but then judging our reactions to porn or Instagram, looking at sexy pictures, judging ourselves when a lot of that is set up so that it is very uh it's very sticky, right? It grabs the attention and keeps you a lot of people attached to that. And then there is this a lot of fear of being too am I going to be too much? Am I what I want is too much entitlement, right? Or I'm going to be too demanding because of my wants. And then the other thing is of pleasing our partner continuously over and over in order to just keep the peace and therefore stay silent. And then also the body self-consciousness can be a deterrent to keep you going back to that metaphor of the hell island and the pleasure island. So feeling like you're not attractive enough for your partner, or your partner isn't particularly interested in your body. And some of those things can be things that show up to keep you into this hell sort of island space. So it's really coming into the pleasure part of the island for your sex, and that is the safety, right? Of being able to say no, to be able to let go of monitoring yourself, evaluating everything, worrying so much about stuff, sounds, the way your body looks. Um, yeah. So, and that can show up as I'm weird. This is taking too long. Um, and so without the safety, right, a lot of these thoughts can show up of the misunderstandings and the disconnect with the partner. So it's not so the root, is the safety, in my opinion. And feel free to talk to other researchers, other educators, other people in the sex community for their viewpoints, because maybe this doesn't align for you with what I'm saying, and that's totally fine. This is, though, if I can put my finger on the one key element, and that is the safety of accepting, like the safety also with ourselves, of feeling safe enough that my wants, preferences, and needs actually do matter, right? I see a lot of times there can be this sort of thinking of, oh, well, I said this, I asked for this, and they gave me a no. And then this perceived rejection can start to show up in one partner, whether it's true or not, but it is then removing our power away to actually even voice what is happening, which comes back to the thoughts of, oh, well, they said no then. How do I get my needs met or get more clarity to be able to vocalize what I do need or what is actually happening and get some feedback, right? Because maybe I am making an assumption here in what's going on. Maybe I think that this person maybe likes me or doesn't like me more than, like what my mind is telling me, right? Like maybe I'm making these thoughts and these beliefs something more than what is actually happening in reality. And that is really, again, going back to that safety of my I'm allowed to advocate for myself, and this other person is allowed to also advocate for themselves. But if I don't feel safe enough to even do that or speak this, then it doesn't happen. So it's going back to the safety. So, yes, the psychological permission to show up the way that we are ourselves, right? Authentically being ourselves, whatever that is, right? Because we all have different sexual preferences. And I think owning our sexual preferences and who we are sexually gives actually a lot more clarity for the listener. And that goes back to the safety. If we aren't feeling safe, right, for whatever reason about who we are and what we are not, and what we are willing to accept or, how to negotiate or even talk about these things, then it won't have any words to even be expressed. So it's really coming back to that safety, right? That safety of being able to express these things ourselves sexually and not be chastised or punished from the other person if we are showing up as ourselves, right? So it's having this non-judgmental space, which is the safety. Anyways, all right. So hey there, I want to how do you increase your sex appeal? Okay, so I want to say thank you for everyone who's shown up here on the live. It is a joy also to see the familiar faces on Substack and the writers on Substack. I want to just express how much Substack for me has been very helpful. I do like to always point out the fact that I personally enjoy community quite a bit because I am very motivated by other people that are moving in the same direction that I'm moving in. It's actually more fun for me to do things when I'm around other people that are also doing the same things. It doesn't mean that I need to do exactly what this other person is doing, and I feel this compellment to be exactly like this other person, but I get a lot of ideas and inspiration, and it's more fun to be around people that share a commonality that I am also working towards. So I want to express how I view community. I don't look at it as necessarily a burden. I feel like I can say no, and I can also support people too that are also working towards something. It gives me a lot of pleasure to do that because it is quite fulfilling and fun for me to be connected to people that are like-minded. It's very stimulating for me. So I wanna express how Substack has been quite beneficial for me as my own self to be around a lot of these writers talking and writing about sex in their own unique way. So I just wanna express thank you for that. I'm very grateful. And I also wanna talk about Duncan the Sage. He had a really great topic last week that I am going to be doing an article about. I want to just preface that this week has been very full emotionally for me in quite a lot of ways. I've been developing a huge system, or it feels huge for me, and uh, it's really occupied a lot of my energy. So I am going to be doing the article soon because it was, first of all, getting, I love getting stuff from other people that have questions and messages. And I did receive messages from my last live, which is going to be more topics to talk about in the future as well. So I really appreciate people messaging me and asking questions and sharing what's going on because it also gives me more things to specifically talk about with you all on Substack that are concerns, right? Because then I can talk about it to the people that actually want to hear about it on Substack. So, anyways, I wanted to just uh, speak to that and say that it is going to happen. That articles because it was a wonderful topic that Duncan the Sage brought up. So, Duncan the Sage is also asking, how do you increase your sex appeal? So, my first question, Duncan the Sage, is when you say your sex appeal, you like how to be more magnetic to the opposite sex is so can you elaborate on that for me and tell me if that's what it is that you're asking or give me a little bit more input on specifically what you mean? If not, then I will speak to being more magnetic to the opposite sex to increase your sex appeal. That's how I'm interpreting it. But I want to make sure that I'm not making an assumption because I'll tell you this much assumptions, how to increase your attractiveness. Okay. Okay. So, how to increase your attractiveness. All right. This is great. I love it, Duncan the Sage. So, first of all, number one, your awareness, Duncan the Sage, is magnificent. It is so strong. Like, because I'm assuming also that you're asking for yourself. But if not, maybe you're asking whoever is asking this question or wants this is a great topic to talk about. So, increasing your attractiveness, right? So there's a couple things to look at here. What can you control? What can you not control? Okay. So I actually help more men with this and some women because I find that there is more maneuverability with a lot of males to increase your attractiveness. Like, there are a lot of things that you can control to actually increase your attractiveness. So, the second question, all right, so there's the topic of what can control, and I'm going to get back to that. And then who do you want to be attracted? Like, who do you want as to find you attractive, right? Because that is a determining factor as well, right? Like, All right, so if I would like a particular cultural or type of person, there might be some things to consider. Like, does this culture dress a certain way? So then I would dress more that way because I would blend in more. The other thing is, so it's really being attractive is your communication skills to me. It's and being authentically you, really knowing yourself, knowing who you are, knowing your limits, expressing them, and communicating them. It is also, I think, being able to flirt. Personally, I because sex is also starting outside of the bedroom, which is language. Also, what's the difference between attractive and appealing to women? Yeah. So I think there can be so Duncan the Sage wrote, also, what's the difference between attractive and appealing to women? Great question. Yeah, you're getting my brain turning here. This is awesome. I got thirsty, so I'm gonna drink some water. It's not vodka, if you were wondering. Anyways, okay, so yeah. So what do you consider also being attractive, right? Like, what are the traits of being attractive for you? And then, so the other thing is your partner will also have traits that they find attractive. So they're the best. So say you're single, right? Then you can't really ask them, but you can. So I'm going to go back to that. But if you are in a committed relationship and you want to be more attractive towards your partner, then you want to ask them. They're going to give you all the answers. And one way to do that is give them some suggestions. Do you like my clothing? Would you prefer for me to dress a certain way? Would that be more appealing? But that's going a little bit deeper because maybe that doesn't work for you, but that could be something you could control, right? Or the style of your hair. But again, it if you don't want to do that, then that's not gonna feel aligned for you. It would be because you desire to do that, if that makes sense. And that's okay. Wanting to do something for your partner, I don't think is such a bad thing, but it's coming from the place of you choosing to want to do that because you want to versus my partner really likes blonde, so I'm only going to be a blonde because I want to get their validation that they find me attractive. That's a different scenario. So appealing to women, I think, is being an assertive man. That is the thing that I find to be the number one thing that men can work on to be very attractive is being an assertive man that does not mean being passive and waiting for the woman to do all the work or, you know, expecting her to make the first move or it's actually showing up in doing something that you think it's being assertive with your communication. It's showing up not in a so assertiveness is taking into consideration the other person and yourself. People get confused with assertiveness and find it to be aggressiveness. It is not. So you can look that up in the dictionary. So being assertive as a man is extremely attractive to women. And then being yourself and vulnerable and emotionally, like, so going back to the emotional stuff, being single, I find it challenging to embrace my erotic side, especially when my sex drive clashes with low self-esteem. Okay. So very cool. Or thank you for writing that in. So I have so for me, I I have overcome the low self-esteem myself, and that was, so I wanna just say that I can speak to this, in more details. So the erotic side and the low self-esteem, this can be showing up as I'm being too demanding with my wants, needs, and likes. It can show up as I don't wanna be entitled, so I don't want to burden this other person, so I won't say anything. Are you saying that your sex drive, let's just say, is higher than, like, or are you saying, like, rejection sensitivity when you say the low self-esteem, like, thinking that their no or their mannerisms, their tone, or their, silence is, uh, making a statement to you? Is that also something that is happening with with the rejection when you say low self-esteem? Can you tell me? I'm just waiting for Duncan the Sage to write out some more details. Okay, so Duncan the Sage wrote, "I crave intimacy at the same time I'm ashamed to ask for it." Okay, so a couple things is the well, number one, acknowledging that you're feeling ashamed to ask for it. I think learning and speaking these questions out loud or to someone that works around the sex, uh, mental health professional can be very helpful to look at scripts. So, okay, yes, we want to be authentically ourselves and saying the words that land to us and having it be our authentic words, but scripts are going to give you training wheels. If you think of a bike, they're the training wheels to get going, and being very real that a lot of this is normal to feel ashamed, to feel awkward, that this is uncomfortable because you're not maybe used to asking for this on a regular basis. Like, I will ask for somebody to hold the door open, perhaps a lot easier because I've been doing it more often if I've got my hands full of with groceries, right? I feel okay to ask for that because I need that. It's a reasonable request. So the thing is coming to the acknowledgement that I can ask for this. I can also frame it in a way that the other person can say no, and they may not be ready to be sexual with me at this time. They may need more time, and that's okay, but I can ask what I can do. I can share that I am sexually attracted to this person and say that I would like to have sex with them and ask what they would want, need, or expect from me. And I know that this sounds a little maybe strange to talk about it in this way, but that's because people avoid talking about this stuff, about sex, when if we're not talking about it and we're not asking for it, then it becomes more awkward and a shame. And I think for some men, they don't want to necessarily seem overbearing, so they wait for the woman to to make more of the moves or to lead in that way. I use comedy as a form of flirting. I find dirty talk a bit of a challenge since I'm on the spectrum. Again, my brain sees things in logical perspective. So I'm reading what Duncan the Sage is telling me. So number one, thank you so much for saying that you're on the spectrum. I think when we actually say more about who we are and, like, then others can show up and meet us to engage in a better way for us as well. So I really appreciate you telling me that. My half brother, he is on the spectrum, and I have ADHD myself. So and I work with a lot of people that are on the spectrum too. So okay. And I think that is just acknowledging our own limitations. And the dirty talk is a challenge because it's not something that we're necessarily saying all the time. Okay. So it is going to feel awkward. That's normal. So I think a lot of sometimes our thinking is also to uh you know, that a lot of some of our thoughts or this awkwardness, that's a very normal to experience. And I think that's where a lot of the misunderstandings come from. So you use comedy as a form of flirting. So I want to talk about that because I find that men do that. And I'm going to point the finger at the male gender race. But I'm not saying that women do not do that too, because they will do that too. It can be a form of self-preservation, of feeling uncomfortable. And the thing is, it can be something that turns off a woman or the other person. Let's just take that away. Like it, I think if the comedy is directed towards something else, but not to the woman, making fun of the woman, then I think adding that in is going to be wonderful because a lot of women, they love humor. They love humor. They like a funny person. And when I say women too, I know men that love women who are freaking funny. This is this is a great quality, but just making the comedy not about the other person. That is where I see people don't seem to understand the comedy needs to be about something else, not about you necessarily and not about her. And I'm going to use the pronoun her in this situation. So not about the woman, not about her, about funny, like stuff going on, making fun of things that are not necessarily going to trigger the other person. So put some thought into it before the humor's the comedy starts coming out. So thank you for sharing your experience with us. I'm dyslexic and ADHD. Okay, awesome. Thank you for telling me that too. Uh, my mouth got dry. So I was on a date with a woman. I wasn't overthinking because I was making her laugh. Oh, so there you go. So this is great. So that's what you just said right there. So you can say that, Duncan, the sage. When I hear you laugh, I start to relax and settle in, and I feel safe around you, and I feel more authentic myself. It boosts, this is what you can say, it boosts my confidence. I get a boost of confidence when you laugh, but you don't have to laugh if you so give them the option to not laugh, right? So I think that's also giving people the option to not laugh if they don't find it funny, but you can say it gives me a boost of confidence when you laugh at my comedy, okay? So that's great. So that's great awareness that you noticed on your date, okay, with the woman. And that's a great sign that she likes your humor because when we are dating or when we are seeking a partner, we want to make sure that this person understands our humor or we can at least talk it out, right? That they understand that we're not attacking them, right? Because I've had I've personally been on dates and I talk to a lot of women and they're like they don't like the guy's humor. The guy's humor is attacking the woman and I don't think that that is where the comedy needs to and I'm not saying we don't, not to make fun of ourselves, but doing it in a constant way gets old. Like making fun of situations, that is really fun to be around. So that's a good cue for you to notice that, oh, this woman is laughing. I like being around women that like my comedy, right? So that's great awareness for you to also notice internally and how you're engaging on the date. So so there's some things. Okay, so women are so their smell. Let's be clear here. Our smell matters more to women than you may think. So you can control that. All right? So controlling that would be, our I, eating a lot of I'm gonna say meat that is got an odor to it, it can come out of our pores, right? So that can be a smell, and then maybe wearing cologne that is too much, that is not attractive to a lot of women. It will be, um, more of a turn off, like, "This person's smell is so strong. I don't wanna be around him because it's too much." So maybe finding some essential oils. I know that might not be super masculine, but it is very nice and soothing as well to put on your skin, so there's benefits for you too. Uh, and then, in a committed relationship, you can simply ask what their preference is, and if you like that smell, then you can wear it. So keeping that in mind of good hygiene is extremely important for most women, and that is something you can control, okay? That is something you can control with showers, you can control with, fragrance, you can control that with lotions, you can control that with skincare, okay? So, doing things going back to that, what can I control, what can I not control, right? So, focusing on the comedy that is not directed at her, but about funny things. Women like comedy a lot. They like a man who will make them laugh. They will marry and commit to a man who will make them laugh. And I don't say make them, but who is funny. They find funny, right? Because when you're funny, when we're funny, when it's funny, it life is easier. It's not as serious. It's not as, "Mm, I'm gonna muscle on through and just grind all day," right? So that is something you can control. You can work on the comedy skills. Most of my humor is being sarcastic about life. Okay, cool. So the sarcasm. Great awareness that you have sarcasm. Sarcasm, I'm gonna be very clear here. Sarcasm is a unique type of humor, okay? Alright, so some people like it, some people, they're like, "No, this is not my jam." So you can see how they are responding to it, and if you want to change your comedy, then you can work on that or you don't, right? So these are your choices. Again, going back to what you can control and what you can't control, and what is going to be authentic for you as a person. And then knowing that, you know what, this person isn't gelling with my sarcastic humor, but I want to be sarcastic. So I'm gonna continue to do that. That's your choice, right? But not everybody is going to be cool with, but again, I'm making an assumption with sarcastic humor. I might need an example, but I think it's, if the other person is laughing, this is a great cue that they are enjoying it. They like it. This is wonderful. And then you saying, I feel more relaxed when you're laughing. It boosts my confidence, right? Because then you're giving them direction about you. You're being vulnerable that this was something you liked, and you're not then expecting the other person to read your mind. So you're giving them a gift, right? So going back to the self-esteem, thinking that I am actually giving this person a gift by sharing what's happening inside of me, what I like, what I want, and what I need is actually a gift, is one way to also think about how to show up and ask for more of what you want, because you're giving the person also clarity on help you or be in your life, right? And how to be more engaged. I use sarcasm to break the ice. Yeah. So, going back to I do recommend, just the the comedy. That's my recommendation because the sarcasm it can land or it may peter out. So that is going to be my recommendation with the comedy if you want to focus more on being attractive. Women and men like someone who can make them laugh and being yourself, right? So I think that also staying in a space of listening. Women love a man who can listen without needing to fix her necessarily or change her. So listening and then reflecting back what she said in a way that is loving and kind and having empathy, right? So it isn't reflecting back that she's too much. It's reflecting back, look, I want to be there for you because I care, but I don't maybe know how to. But I just want to let you know this. So it's saying things like that, of expressing yourself, of what you can do, what is showing up for you without necessarily needing to fix the other person. I find that a lot of men, they, and look, this is also coming from me. I enjoy fixing as well. But our love partner may not want that from us. So it's also coming into the consideration of asking them if they want that support too from us, because maybe they just want someone to listen to us. But yeah, and being curious about them. So that's another thing that I would do is ask questions and make the questions though kind of fairly simple, like, or basic. And if you want to add your humor into that, they could be funny questions because, there's and you also get to know who you're with, right? So that is giving you also more clarity of, do I even like this woman, right? Because that's another question that you want to ask too is, do you even like this woman? Quick question, how do you deal with someone who has high self-esteem but a low sex drive? Okay. Um, okay. So what do you consider high self-esteem? Like confidence? Is that it? Or tell me about that. And then what do you consider a low sex drive? Is that they just don't really enjoy sex? Or if you can give me more information about that, more specifics. These are great questions, by the way. Someone who has boundaries and confidence. However, they don't seem to engage with sex at the same time. Okay. So, with boundaries, number one, I think that having boundaries is very good. Actually, looking at somebody who has boundaries means they respect themselves, but also knowing most people have stronger boundaries in the beginning and then they loosen up over time. That is the ideal kind of situation that uh, a lot of people who respect themselves will do is, because they're getting to know the other person. So having boundaries, I think also looking at that as this person is telling you about themselves, and then you can also share your own boundaries too. Having boundaries for yourself and they're confident. So confidence is a great thing. So I think that the other thing is I think some men think that a woman who has a lot of confidence is out of their league. And that is actually something to I think of that's a great quality to have in a life partner, of looking at a woman who is confident that this is a great quality, but can I be myself around her as well? So thinking of the confidence as, uh, this is great, like I can learn from her if you want to think of it in that way, because we were talking about the low self-esteem. And low self-esteem, by the way, you can work on that. This is something you can improve and change. It is not something, "Oh, okay, I have low self-esteem," and you just stay there. Having high self-esteem, you can change. You can move towards that. And it's a lot of it has to do with the way that you think and the way that you're perceiving situations. So going back to looking at this person and then being, uh you can say, "I learned from you, being around you. It, is helping me learn more, to be confident," or you can ask them questions. And however, they don't seem to engage with sex at the same time. So what does that mean when you say, however, they don't seem to engage with sex at the same time? Like, they're not wanting to have sex? I'm looking down to read. There's no sexual desire even though they find you attractive. Oh, okay. So if they're telling you that they have no sexual desire, I would ask more about that, what they mean by that. Like, is it no sexual desire towards you? That's going to be a vulnerable question to ask. You might not like the answer, but you might get also an answer that you didn't expect. They might share that I don't have sexual desire like at all. Or they might share that they don't know their sexual desire. Or they might share that I have sexual desire at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday and Thursday or something like that. So, ask them. And I'm saying that it is funny because there that's okay, right? To have these preferences and these needs, but they might have some reluctancy to express their sexual desire. So I would ask them what that means and also give them like some ability to use some possibilities that I just said and ask in a curious way. And I would say, because I'm really sexually turned on by you, I find you very attractive physically. And I want to be sexual with you, not in a creepy way, but also say, like, that. And then you can also say, I don't want, you need to be clear also on what you can give. Right? Are you able to give a relationship to this woman or are you not? Are you only wanting to have sex or are you not? Like, or are you able to do a relationship? So that is your responsibility, Duncan the Sage, and being assertive about it, of saying, look, I only want to have sex. I find you physically attractive. I cannot do a relationship right now, and that's it, right? And then you can say that and then get what their response, and receive that. Quick question, is your sex drive affected by trauma? It can be. So for some women, yes. And some men who have experienced trauma, absolutely, because the story keeps replaying in their mind, right? And that can show up in the present, but it's moving that trauma into the past, right? It's putting all that to the side and moving. So it can, until it's worked through, right? And everyone has their own speed and rhythm of working that through as well. And that requires a mental health professional who works with sex, who can help with that. So they find you attractive. So there's no sexual desire and they find you attractive. Going back to that is, all right, they find you attractive, and then you need to tell this woman if you can be in a relationship or not be in a relationship. That is your responsibility to communicate that clearly, being an ethical, honest human being who's a good person, and say that you can't do this or you can do this, right? Knowing what you're in for. If you just want sex, you need to say, this is just sex for me. That is, and being very clear about owning what you can and cannot do, and then letting the other person decide if they are going to be okay with that. Okay. Are you in a committed relationship with this woman right now? Or is it you're still getting to know her? And if she's attracted to you, by the way, this is a good sign, because you want somebody who's going to be attracted to you if it's long term, if it's gonna be a long-term commitment. And the fact that she expressed her boundaries and view her as confident, I would also tell her that it's in the early stage. Why do some women struggle with monogamy? So that's a great question. So I would reframe that and just get and not all women struggle with that. So keep that in mind when you are looking to date women. If this is very important for you for monogamy, then I would not date women who are not looking for monogamy with you. I would be very discerning about that as well, because this will boost your self-esteem and attract the right kind of women that you want to commit to, because you know what you want. And expressing that you want monogamy is a beautiful thing. It's and then finding a woman who also wants monogamy back with you, that is the ideal. So, if you want monogamy and they're saying they don't want monogamy, they are telling you a lot of information. They're saying they're not ready for that right now, or they don't want it at all. And then I would move on to someone who does. But the not ready right now, then you can get some more clarity on that. But I would ask questions. And this is going to also help with your self esteem, give you more clarity, and you will also know the other person because you are allowed to want monogamy and get that and have that in your life. This is a beautiful thing, and being in a monogamous relationship is a wonderful experience for a lot of people. So, I think that right now there's a lot of changes in this world, and people are fairly open sexually. But there are a lot of women, in connecting to the women that do want the monogamy, and if that is going online or going to certain groups where that is available more often, then that's what I would recommend so that you can be around people who want monogamy. Because there's a lot of people that do, but it's keeping in mind, am I attracted to somebody who doesn't want monogamy? And then ask yourself, who does this remind you of? And it will probably be a parent, most likely. But ask yourself that. Who does this person remind you of? And also ask yourself, is that working for you? Right? That's going to connect you back to the self esteem. If this woman does not want monogamy, is that working for you? And then you need to get honest with yourself and say, that's not working for me, or that is working for me, or I'm going to see how this goes. I noticed this in the past when women ask me about my opinion on monogamy. The moment I tell them I want monogamy, a few of them start running away. Okay, so first of all, that's a story that you have going on, and so yes, that maybe did happen. Yes, that did happen, okay? So that did happen. And so that is something to work on as far as your attachment style, in my opinion. And then also being more upfront, which is what you're doing now, what you're talking to me about it, being upfront in the beginning of what you want, where this is going, what they think is possible, and talking about it in the beginning. And if you ask people questions, direct questions, they're going to give you direct answers. And so you're advocating for yourself, your wants, needs, and likes. This is a good thing. And then you won't have as much of that happen, or you at least will have more discernment on, do I want to continue dating someone who, potentially will leave and run away, right? So talking this out about the monogamy, about what you're looking for, also framing it in a way that's like, all right, for a couple months, I'd like to stay committed to ourselves and date each other. So framing maybe something a little bit, like, all right, in stages, like I'd like to date for a year or 6 months or whatever, and then maybe get married. So kind of talking about the transitions that are going to happen so that the other person has more clarity of what you're looking for versus, making it le less abstract, so making it a bit more digestible so that the person has more clarity. And then they'll have more ability to discern. I'm starting to notice that I like women who are emotional available. Yeah, that's great. So emotionally available women are the people that are more willing to have a relationship on an emotional level because they will be vulnerable and yeah. So that's a great thing that you're noticing as well. Your self-awareness is growing. And eventually, the more you ask and the more you advocate for yourself, you will notice eventually that you're going to have what you want because your brain is activated in seeking that out now. It's looking for women who want monogamy if that's what you want. So you're going to attract that easier in your life, right? Because you also know that you don't want women who run away when you share your opinion about monogamy. So it's talking about that more in the beginning as well, but doing it, in this do they are they open to this concept, right? And if they're not, they're like, I want to date 500 men, then all right, well, then I don't want to be with a woman who wants to date so many men simultaneously. I want to be with a woman who wants to commit. And that's your right. You're allowed to want these things, but it doesn't mean that other people are necessarily going to want that. So it can feel disappointing. I know for me, I have felt disappointed when I wanted commitment from a man and he didn't want to give me that. It was very disappointing. But you I can't force somebody either. So it is also, moving towards people that do want what you want and connecting with them. Okay. That's gonna be it for tonight. I am gonna do at least 2 more lives, I know at the same time at 8 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time. I know it's worldwide, and you're in the UK, Duncan, this age, so thank you for telling me that. I remember from before, uh, so all the different time zones, so I really appreciate you showing up and talking and asking all these questions because these are great questions. I wish that more men asked these kind of questions more often. I, uh, do I notice that I'm attracted to women who are unemotional available, which is weird. No, it's not weird. It's actually because it reminds you more it's more comfortable because it's probably a reminder of your childhood, right? Of a parent who was this way. So it can seem weird, but it's also noticing that this is not the right solution long term for you, but it feels more comfortable to be around somebody who's like that because it reminds you of probably a parent, and I'm saying probably because I'm making an assumption here, but that is what I have noticed is it reminds you of someone of the clients that I work with, it reminds them of someone, a parent figure. So the fact that you are aware of that is very powerful because you now know, okay, well, I don't wanna be around or I don't wanna be with an unemotional, unavailable person, right? And we're just using these words. Do you think some men have mother co No, it's not, it's people. It's people. I don't think it's I think that's sometimes, right? There can be that. Absolutely, but it's more of it's not like a mother complex, it's more like an unhealed wound with a parent. So we are seeking this wound to be healed in another person who reminds us of this parent that wasn't available for us as a child. And it's not to say that the parent was a bad parent or whatever, it's they just weren't able to meet our needs as a child. They didn't have the skills. They weren't equipped. They didn't have that ability at that time because of maybe stress or whatever or life situations. So the fact that you're consciously aware of that is extremely powerful for you because then you're able to have more authority and discernment over your choice of, do I want to spend time with this unavailable person, right? Because you're telling me you don't. And so then it's becoming conscious, like, this is not good for me. I need to choose someone else. And that is also working, I think, with a mental health professional on as well to get that secure attachment. I do think hypnosis is great with that because it's working with the unconscious mind, the programming, some of those stories that we've created in our mind that keep running in the background, that are going on in the background, and then just rewriting them so that they're healthy and creating plans and strategies that are going to support us in the real world for what we want. But yeah, so I think there are people that do have mother complexes and father complexes, and I think it can show up in unique ways in our life. I don't think there's necessarily something tragically wrong, but it's, do you want to change this also? Because we may not want to change it. When you put it that way, my father was never around me, so that could explain why I'm attracting. Yes, but so let's say this differently. I am open and I'm attracting better people in my life who care about my boundaries, who are emotionally open people. So, yes. I would say that, but it's good that you have the awareness about your father, and again, it's asking that question, "Who does this person remind me of?" And you came to the answer, by the way, in a love way, by the way, in a love way. Yes, no, I understand, in a romantic way, yeah, in a love way. I get it, exactly. So that is extremely great self-awareness that's happening, and then also you know that you can change that, and you can say, "I don't want I don't want to date that," and then you pivot quickly towards people who are what you do want, which is emotionally open and available, that enjoy your humor, right? And that you are attracting more of that because you spoke about that earlier, about the person who was laughing. But anyways, so I want to end. It is now 75 minutes. Uh, this was such a great talk. I think that there was a lot of stuff that was worked through for you, and I look forward to knowing about your what what changes and what happens with you, Duncan, the Sage, of the dates and your love life and the women. And such great questions because they are things that you can control, right? There are things you can do, and developing skills and who you are as a person is a wonderful gift that you're giving also another person. So keep that in mind. You are a catch by developing your own skills. Like, yeah, this is a great thing. This is a and being a man who wants a woman who is emotionally available is attractive as well, right? This is a great thing as a man. Again, so I just wanna go back to being assertive, and that is, including advocating for your wants, needs, and likes, and that's, can be, adding in the curiosity, asking questions. But anyway, so I will be here, the same time next Friday, and that is going to be and I think that's Saturday for you. If I'm incorrect, I apologize. So that will be the 13th though for me, Eastern Standard Time at 8 p.m. And it was so great to connect with you all. I also am open to messages. If you would like to work with me one-on-one, you can send me an email. It's at Samantha at the languageoforgasm.com. It's Saturday morning. Oh, thank you. Thank you for 2 a.m. You know what? I can write in here. So I'm going to just type that in, and also my website where you can get the 69 dirty talk phrases, which are very good. I've gotten great feedback from them. 2 a.m. Thank you, Duncan the Sage, for showing up. I really appreciate it. Awesome. I stay up late as well, usually, and so, yeah, I'm typing in my email and also the website for the free 69 phrases, which give you some words to express, but a lot of people do feel awkward talking dirty in the bedroom, but that is a great script to start using, and then eventually it is easier if this is something that you do enjoy, which a lot of people, they do. I encourage the dirty talk because it gets you connected to the mind of your partner. You are so welcome. I appreciate you all, and again, feel free to message me and I can share my one-on-one link for my calendar as well. I work with men one-on-one a lot, okay? A lot of times, I a lot of men, they think I can help with the technique that is going on and give some guidance and some support around that, because that's how it usually starts with, the men that I work with, is they're concerned about their technique, which I definitely encourage people to improve their technique skills, that this is a great thing that you are also giving to your partner, of being a very good sexual partner. But there usually is, this is a huge but, it's the communication in the bedroom that is really where the transformation occurs. And it's not just in the bedroom, it's also outside of the bedroom, because that is really what's happening is there's a disconnect in that the other person isn't listening, or the other person isn't, advocating, or they're not advocating. They're just not talking about stuff, and there's been a disconnect. So, anyways, have a lovely rest of your day, and I will sign off now. So, bye for now. Look forward to connecting with you all soon.